this is Joshua Gutman, and I hope you enjoy my interview with David Simon, Nina Noble, Dominic West, and Wendell Pierce as we discuss the 20th anniversary of The Wire.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, doing good. Well, right off the bat, congratulations on the 20-year anniversary of The Wire. Like, as a fan of the show myself, I'm incredibly happy for all of your success. And also, as a person who's also from Baltimore, I'm actually quite curious, David. Looking back on the 20 years anniversary of The Wire, do you see Baltimore as having changed? How do you see Baltimore maybe having changed, evolved, or devolved since when The Wire was around?
I guess the answer to that, how I see it, is not necessarily in The Wire, but in the piece that we just completed, We Own the City.
Mm-hmm.
If The Wire had one argument, it was to end the drug war and abandon the idea of mass incarceration and over-policing, which Baltimore indulged in for generations. Obviously, it was just a television show, and nobody listened, and the drug war continued to the point of, 100,000 arrests a year in the early aughts, and then Freddie Gray and all the excesses that we know, and finally the gun trace task force scandal. It went down the same bad road for these last 20 years. I mean, we've been off the air for 14 of them, and the police department is an organic thing. It doesn't simply stay what it is. It either gets better or it gets worse, and things here got worse.
Mm-hmm.
Crime rate got worse. The behavior and performance of the presumed deterrent got worse. And that made it necessary. It seemed like the proper thing to do to come back and use the gun trace task force as a coda to say, again, end the drug war, except maybe this time it's in capital letters with a period between every word.
Yeah.
I mean, has the city improved in some ways? Yes. There's some entrepreneurship here. It's still, we're seeing some new things here and there. It's still one of the cheapest places on the East Coast in which to settle. I'm vested in the city. I live here.
Mm-hmm.
There's some good things happening in places, but policy-wise, not enough was done to turn the ship around.
Yeah, I mean, I know one of the big themes in The Wire was how the institutions were almost like, because of the corruption and dysfunction, was like this dark vortex. The shit runs downhill.
Self-perpetuating. Yeah.
Has your views been updated in any way since the show's release?
No, I mean, certain things have changed. When I was a police reporter, we all knew, we weren't idiots, that what happened in the dark in an alley between a cop and the guy he's arresting is between the two of them. Even if there's a witness or two, if the witnesses can be impeached, or if the officer knows how to write, a certain amount of police violence was plausible and even, assured in some, depending on not every officer, but a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
We did The Wire again. We did it for the last words were written on it 15 years ago. These things, these cameras we all carry around with us didn't exist, and these have been transforming for policing in a good way. And by the way, not all cops have caught up to the fact that you can't stay in the past, and you better think about who's got you on video. But so, I mean, if we were doing it again, would we be depicting a different climate? Sure. And it'd be the time of BLM and the time of video evidence. And also it would be a time when, the police department didn't stay stagnant. 2 generations removed from the police that we were describing in The Wire, the Hercs and the Carvers of the previous piece, they're the majors and the colonels now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're training the next generation how not to do the job. So.
And basic kind of building off, you said, like, if you were to do it again, if you had the opportunity to do The Wire again, would there be another institution in the city you would want to focus on?
Nina, you've never actually answered a question like this. Is there something that you would have loved to have seen, aside from veterinary sciences, which I know has you have a particular love of that? Is there something civic that you wish we had done more with in The Wire?
I mean, personally, I would find maybe an exploration into the Baltimore healthcare system, whether it's the encouragement of like either the spread of Johns Hopkins, you can relate it to even COVID, or access to health services and social worker
Not
services
bad.
in the city.
Not bad. Nina, you got one?
That's actually what I was going to say. I was going to, I was going to do healthcare for sure. If not, if not the animal control. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. I greatly appreciate it, both as a fan of the show and someone from Baltimore.
Sure. Thank you for your interest.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, like, your characters were both known for being incredibly flawed people that didn't necessarily have a traditional redemption arc or anti-hero style badassness, but you still remained very engaging and compelling characters. What do you think the secret was to keeping the audience invested in such flawed people?
Oh, I was a badass.
You were a badass, actually.
I was a badass. I was a badass at policing, and investigating, interviewing, and interrogation. That was the thing that kind of kept them going. You saw all the flaws and all the drinking, and the one thing was sure was that he was good police. And ultimately, in that last season, he was true north, right, to remind people of where we should be. So that was his bad police. That was his badassness. It was even said in the course of the series, "Oh, that's Bunk Moreland. Yeah, he has his issues and stuff, but he's good police." And so I subscribe to that.
I think people responded to the authenticity of it, and that what in my character, I think what David was trying to do or did successfully was that this idea of the maverick cop who goes his own way and wins the day, which is a sort of Hollywood trope and a TV trope, a cop show trope, just isn't true in real life. You know, if the maverick cop gets shat on by the system and by his bosses, and I think what people liked about McNulty was that everyone has a boss they hate, and that everyone has a boss who gets in the way of the work they're trying to do, who makes their work worse than it needs be. And I think people just recognized what it's like to work in a system, and for that system to be dysfunctional. And I think that was far more important than McNulty's own personal flaws, which of course are universal as well. We all have personal flaws, and not to show that would have been inauthentic as well.
Of course. And those talking about the authenticity, have either of you ever been approached by police officers or people from Baltimore that commented on elements of your depiction?
Yeah, I certainly have, and all invariably good. You know, invariably they've appreciated it. I mean, we had Ed Burns was writing. He was a cop on Baltimore for 20 years, and was in some ways a sort of McNulty in his time, in that he was, he was a contrary guy. But and I've even had UK cops coming up to me going, we were trying to do that sort of shit. We just didn't have the equipment that you have. Are you joking?
I actually met the real Bunk, and for 5 years I thought he disapproved of my portrayal. And the last season, someone came up to me and said, "Hey man, you better, Bunk is retiring, and you better be there." I said, "Oh yeah, I'll definitely." So I go to his retirement party, and I have the present. And I'm walking up to him, and he's giving me this quizzical look. And I'm thinking that he's just going to rip me a new one. He's just looking at me and shaking his head and goes, "Boy, you made me a star." And I was welcomed like the prodigal son. And he said, "Well, you got to speak tonight." I spoke at his retirement party. So he just really loved the show, and we're friends to this day. I owe him a call when we're doing all of this press. It made me realize it's been a while since I talked to him.
And that must have been fantastic. Well, like especially nowadays where there's a lot of tension and friction between the general public and police officers in general. Do you see like the landscape of police procedurals changing moving forward? Maybe either having more of the gritty, realistic cops like The Wire, or do you think the genre? What do you think of the state of the genre?
Well, I think The Wire set the bar high, and that we can't just do these procedural shows without dealing with the complexities of the job and the multifaceted nature of the job, and also dealing with those issues of moral ambiguity when they raise their ugly heads. Shows now would be considered a little less than if they really didn't try to live up to a bar that's set pretty high with The Wire. And so we can't just contribute to some ideology that makes it unreal and unrealistic. And we see that in real life too. So that's what I appreciate about The Wire and the protocol that it has set.
Thank you both for your time. I really appreciate it. And again, congratulations on your success.